Hi, Beatrice.
Hi, Rosemary.
How are you?
Great, thanks. Was great, except you're a little bit late, and now I'm tired.
This is not without my sister. I want to tell you, because this is always thrilling content, about the dreams that I had last night because they're podcast related. So I've been doing a lot of podcast listening for research purposes to podcasts that I otherwise wouldn't necessarily listen to, right? So I listened to an episode of Joe Rogan at your behest, and I also listened to an episode of Spencer and Vogue, kind of at your behest, but I quite enjoyed that.
Did you listen to the whole thing?
No. Last night I had a dream that Spencer had an apartment in Dublin. We were having a sexual affair.
Oh, Jesus
And
Christ.
but in my dream he was still married to Vogue, and I was just really flattered that he was cheating on Vogue with me. It's that absolutely pathetic. And then I woke up for approximately 2 seconds, fell back asleep, had another dream that I was going out with Joe Rogan, and he was really rude, really awful. His cutlery drawer was filthy, but I just kept thinking to myself in my dream, he's really rich.
Oh, my God.
Literally in my dream, I said to somebody, he made 12 million last year.
Oh, my, I can't even. Did he not
And
make
he was
20
being
million,
horrible.
I think? 20 million.
No, it was definitely more than 12. He was being
God.
horrible in my dream.
Rightly so, by the sounds of it, you gold digging wench.
I know. And very specifically in my dream, one of his friends whose name was Helen, I don't know who this person is, had a hypo. She was diabetic and basically wasn't being revived. And I was running around the place going, is anybody here a doctor or a nurse? And Joe was playing the guitar and was really annoyed that I interrupted him. And then this man who looked a bit like one of the werewolves from Twilight, not in werewolf form, but in human form. This man was like, I'm a nurse, and he came over to help her. And then Joe Rogan came in and was like, a male nurse, I have a doctor, and shoved the nurse out of the way.
Oh.
But they say everyone in your dream represents you, so actually I'm the bigot. I'm the anti-nurse person.
But you're also the doctor.
And I'm also incredibly rich. And I'm Helen, who's diabetic.
You're also Vogue and you're Spenny.
No, Vogue wasn't in my dream, only Spenny.
Oh.
He also had a horrible apartment. It was teeny tiny.
Basically, you think you have a horrible apartment and a dirty crockery drawer, whatever, cutlery drawer.
Yeah, but also that if I was married to Vogue, I would cheat on her with meat. No, I wouldn't.
Listen, that's just you channeling the first 2 seconds of their actual conversation where they talked about how attractive she is and how they were.
Good point.
That was just the weird. It's I was actually kind of not unenjoying it also, and then that part gave me the creeps. I was like, that's a weird conversation to have just in general. You know
what though? Maybe I'm more numb to that because in Love Island they frequently have conversations about how attractive the other one is or how attractive they are. That they're like, what did you think of me when I first walked in? And they'll go, I thought you were pretty hot. Did you? Did you think I was hot? And I'm wondering now, if you're a really, really beautiful person, do you just have those conversations? Is that just a normal conversation to have?
No, I'll tell you from my own perspective, it's not.
I knew you were going to say that. Such an idiot.
No, I actually also think it's cultural. Maybe that's why I find it weird. I wouldn't find it weird in the context of Love Island because I'd just roll my eyes and go, ugh, Love Island, right?
Yeah.
I'm probably like, ugh, Americans, they're very open. They're not as, not that they're not as nuanced, but there's a lack of cunning, if you know what I mean.
They're very literal.
They're very literal, but there's also a lack of, there's a sort of a naivete, right? There's just a total, very earnest.
Yeah, they're not trying to appear humble.
I don't know if it's that. It's just more like that, humble. It's not as layered. It's not as layered, or you know what I mean? I don't spend an awful lot of time going, what did they really mean? Because generally what they say to me is what they actually meant. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Even though obviously they're office politics and I go, do they really mean that? But I'm actually wondering, did they really mean the words that actually came out of their mouth versus what layers of kind of intent were buried?
What can I read into that? Yeah,
which actually isn't really fair because I thought about this the other night. I think that's those are more the Americans that I maybe don't relate to as well, because the people that I do relate to, and my American friends, are not like that.
Yeah, I get you.
But I think there is just a large part of the American whatever demographic or population that is much more earnest and sincere and you know, and it's the kind of stuff that I kind of cringe about. I'm like, oh God, but there's nothing wrong with it. Like it's very genuine and very earnest. It was like that whole, what was that book we read? Oh no, you read out to me. It was the first book club.
I cannot.
Glennon Doyle.
No, I do not want to name that woman. I do not want to name that author. I do not want to name that. No.
Yes, you read out so many sections to me, and every single time I was like, please, I chose to not read this book.
You know, I gave that a 1-star review on Goodreads, right?
That's only because you couldn't give it a no-star review. I'm hoping.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You have to give 1 to 5.
And I mean,
right?
you know, like to each their own, and I'm sure, and actually, because we did this for the first book club that I started in my office, and I'm not the best book club member because I didn't get around to reading it, but I still joined up for the conversation because I always like to have an opinion. But Rosemary, in my defense,
people will be shocked to hear that you like to have an opinion about something you haven't researched.
Rosemary had, excuse me, I researched it because you read out all the most important parts to me.
That's called like osmosis.
It's called just being present, being there. But yeah, I mean, but like lots of people enjoyed it. Like loads of people actually found it really helpful and inspirational.
Adele posted on Instagram that it was like the best book she's ever read. And what I was going to say was I gave it 1 star on Goodreads, and every single day I get at least 4 people liking that review.
Oh, really?
Like 4 people that I'm not, you know, who aren't following me or whatever.
It's probably very polarizing, right? It's probably you love it or
I'd say it's either 5 or 1, yeah.
And I'd also say like that's probably fine. Like if you find your niche and people love it, doesn't matter how many people hate it, right? Because there are enough people in the world to go around. So today I was thinking about, because we were going to talk about like the incredibly stupid things we've ever done, right?
Right.
And like I don't really have very many, as you can imagine. So many.
Oh, please.
Okay. Well, maybe the really stupid things we've done that like are literally like were so stupid that we could have ended up dead, right? Those kind of like unbelievably stupid things.
Yeah, but can I also put in this category like moments of kind of near misses? Because I just want to mention the fact that when I was a baby, you broke a bone on my back. That could have killed me through no fault of my own.
I actually can't believe you're saying that again. I think we already mentioned that and you already went on and on and on.
And I may have already mentioned this as well, but I was sitting on a gate one day and I moved, and 10 seconds later a drunk driver plowed through that gate.
I was sure you were going to mention that one.
That was Final Destination stuff. Maybe I've been chased around by death ever since then.
He was really disgusted afterwards when I wouldn't even give him his money.
Well, for a second I was like, what are you talking about? You're gone absolutely like insane.
Anyway, I realised as I was thinking, I was like, oh, there was this time and there was that time. And I was like, oh, there weren't that many times. I was like, oh, there was also this time. But every single one of them is related to like travel. It's like always when I'm trying to go somewhere or get somewhere that I end up almost killing myself.
Do you think the moral of the story is like my favourite thing is just stay at home?
Well, I was about to say maybe lockdown is good for me. Like I'm safe during lockdown, okay, as long as COVID doesn't get me. But I'm safe during lockdown because I'm not going anywhere. I'm cocooned, exactly. It's even that last time. Do you remember like when I first moved to Indiana, which has like the super bad winters, and the very first snowy day in my teeny tiny Mazda, as the same Mazda that when I went out to the car park one day, I was like, somebody's stolen my car, because I really was so tiny compared to everybody else's cars.
Was it like hidden behind someone's SUV?
I couldn't see it, and I actually totally thought it was stolen. And then afterwards I was like, literally in a car park of SUVs, Beamers and whatever, why would anybody steal my Mazda 3DS? Although I loved my little car.
I don't think it was called 3DS, that's a Nintendo.
Oh yeah.
Okay. My Mazda 3DS, it was great for Sonic. Brilliant.
Shut up. Anyway, I thought it was stolen, and then I was like, no such luck, it's still there waiting for me. But anyway, the first really snowy day, and I went out and everyone was like, you know, it's going to be a blizzard, so you better go home early. So we all knocked off at around 2:00, and I got in my car, went really slowly around the corner, got onto the highway and immediately skidded across 2 lanes and into the oncoming traffic. And just kept skidding across the 4 lanes, ended up on the verge, and just stayed there until I got rescued about 2 hours later. So basically, that was on me on my way home, right? So in a car, travelling. So that was a bad one.
That was a bad one.
Yeah, it was terrifying. I just screamed for the entire 4 lanes. My car, there was nothing to be done.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I literally just shrieked in slow motion. It reminded me of the time, do you know, so our dad is an engineer, as everybody knows, and he used to be a big fan of Marley Park and miniature, what's it called, like electric steam trains? Like they're model steam trains, right? They're not miniature, they're model steam trains because they're, I don't know what scale they are, but like a 12th scale maybe. And every Saturday, these enthusiasts who build their train go to Marley Park That's really mean. These incredibly talented individuals, mainly men, for whatever reason, go to this place.
Because they don't have chores to be doing.
Well, exactly, right. And the wives dutifully show up, well, this was back in the 80s
cake.
now, in fairness, with cake and patience, and sit there all day long while they're like nerd husbands. Well, very nicely, though, chauffeur kids around the train track, right? And I remember, so we used to once a year go up to Belfast where the sister, whatever, train enthusiast network was. And I remember we went up and I sat in I went into this caboose, which was like normally they were open. You sat on the back, like just on the
little
cushion.
seat. Yeah.
Yeah. And this was an actually enclosed, carriage. And I went on it with my cousin.
I'm shocked you fit.
I was about 7. Don't be such an absolute weapon.
No, but I mean, you're always going on about how you're such a giant.
I definitely don't think I was that was very spacious. But anyway, and I was 7. And then actually this could have been the reason. And we went about 10 feet around the train. And then the whole thing toppled off the track, right? So thanks, Rosemary. Thanks for saying that. And I'm not even joking. I went back absolutely bawling my eyes out to poor mom and dad who were like eating sausage rolls and having a great
you're
afternoon.
grand, were they?
Absolutely, you're fine. I was so traumatized. And I was trying to explain to mom that for the first and only time in my life, as that teeny tiny caboose toppled off the track, my entire life flashed before my eyes in slow motion. It was
You were
quick.
7.
It was quick. It was always so about like a foot and a half.
Was it? Was it literally like, I never made it into the mini pops thud?
Yeah, absolute mint. No, but I mean, my point was, I truly was terrified by it, and I went around. Mom's like, "Shh, sit down, Mary's talking." You can imagine. And I did. I think I was just wide-eyed and like traumatized for the whole day. And then we went, and we also had to go through the checkpoints, with like the policemen and the guns. So that was additionally traumatic. Anyway,
I used to love the smell of coal.
Also travel
from Marley Park.
Also slow traveling on the train.
Oh yeah.
I'm showing you this weird, like, I'm obviously going to die in some form of transportation. Or in my bed, which is more likely because I spend more time there.
You know what? I'm trying to think, like, have I ever skidded off the road or been in any kind of accidents? I think, like, the closest thing I ever got to having to call someone because the car had broken down or I was stuck in the car or something was probably last year or the year before. I was coming home from, where was I? I was staying in mum and dad's, or maybe it was when I was living in mum and dad's. I was driving back from town. I was starving, got a McDonald's, turned onto the road, and there was a huge flood. And I had this moment where I was like, oh, do I go back and go the long way around, or do I just try and make it through? My McDonald's was getting colder by the second, right? So I was like, I'll just try and make it through. And then I was like, fuck, I'm going to get stuck. And I was really like terrified. I cannot call the farmer next door. Or else I'm going to have to throw the McDonald's out the window first, and then I'm going to be littering. So I was just too ashamed.
Then I'm going to be littering. How long does it take to eat McDonald's? Like, so as you skidded through the puddle, couldn't you even eat that McDonald's?
No. I hate eating in the car. I was waiting till I got home. I don't like eating McDonald's in the car.
Okay.
But I made it through, so it wasn't really...
Oh, well, thank God. Thank God for that after all that.
It was grand.
Thank God. Then I was thinking there was also the time in Milan that I already mentioned in some other episode where I'd stepped into the car of a handsome non-taxi driver thinking he was a taxi. Also, transportation, right? I shouldn't actually be allowed decide to go anywhere for myself.
Yeah. You shouldn't be allowed to get into cars. You shouldn't be allowed to look at cars.
Well, and there was also the train. There was the train from Bergamo when I was working at Fiorucci, and I used to have to get the train sometimes after that guy who gave me the lifts got fired or got let go, whatever. And I had to get the train, and it was like an hour long, and it was really late one night, and I was coming back home on the train, and I fell asleep. That's what happened. And I missed my stop, and I ended up in the depot, right? Like in the, whatever it's called, depot, right? And I was
Depot?
I'm in America in the depot. And I opened my eyes and it was pitch black and everything was locked. All the doors were locked. All the windows were locked, except there was one teeny tiny window.
Can I just point out? Well, actually, no. Finish the story and then I'll point out what I'm going to point out. Go.
There was one teeny tiny window cracked open, like at the very top. You know those teeny tiny windows that I would never fit out now? And I'm also not very agile. I don't know if you know this about me. And
No, I think you're very agile. I saw you almost get out of the pool the other day.
And I had to climb up to it, shimmy out, turn around. I mean, I was basically doing a Simone Biles. I had to turn around to be able to drop to the ground.
I don't think that's what Simone Biles does.
Turn around to drop. Oh, no, first, sorry, I should rewind. First of all, I sat inside the train for about 4 hours and cried. Like hot, salty tears, just so you know.
Well, what I was going to say was, your whole theory that if there was a zombie apocalypse you would lie down and die has now been disproven, because you didn't just stay on the train crying and like sleep, because like I feel like I would just sleep till the next day.
I don't know why I didn't. Oh, you know what? Because I think it was because like my flatmates and all those were waiting for me. I didn't have a mobile phone at the time. And I was afraid they were all going to be absolutely freaked. And I also didn't know where I was. And I was afraid that there might be some murderer on the train in the dark coming towards me. So I jumped out. That's not true. I crawled out, painstakingly crawled out, dropped to the ground, nearly broke my knees. Yeah, nearly broke my knees. Ran across then the like absolutely graveyard.
Jogged, I'd say.
Lightly speed walked.
Nimble-footedly.
Speed walked across the depot and then got chased by somebody in the depot who like obviously thought I was an intruder, and instead of going, because I didn't have enough Italian and I didn't have the wherewithal to be like, sorry, I got stuck on that train, I just started bawling, crying, shrieking, and ran away from them. Found myself on the middle of the road in like the suburbs of Milan that I'd no idea where I was, and yet would all too soon become too acquainted with. I had to get the bus and then another bus and another bus, like, and just hope that they would at some point connect with some area that I knew. It was an absolute nightmare.
That reminds me of the time that a friend of mine fell asleep on the night link. Do you remember there used to be like 2 night links, one at 1:30 and one at 3:30 from Dublin city centre to Rathcoole? And she fell asleep on the 3:30 a.m. one and woke up back in the Dublin bus garage on Cunningham Road. And I remember she was too afraid to call her dad, because she was like, my dad will kill me if he knows that I was so drunk that I fell asleep on the bus. So she got a lift home with the bus driver.
But isn't that the stupid thing? Like, isn't that the thing that, I mean, your parents obviously are trying to drill into you, like, don't get drunk, don't do stupid things. But like, don't you think they would truly, because I do think our parents were always good at that.
Oh, of course. Like,
what didn't you call them at one point one night, like, I'm totally drunk, come and pick me up? Because I definitely didn't.
I'm sure more than once. I'm sure more than once.
Oh yeah, but you did, right? And they would always get up.
Yeah, they always would, yeah.
And Mom would get up in the middle of the night out of bed and go and pick us up from things.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they came and picked me up from town one night when I was like, I can't get a taxi.
They picked us up many times. And I also feel like as an absolute ingrate of a teenager or like an early 20-something-year-old, I was always like, well, you chose to bring me up in the middle of the country, so you can get up in the middle of the night and pick me up. What a bitch.
You know what the thing as well is, though, anytime Dad, like, I would always be begging. I'd be like, Mom, will you come pick me up? She'd be like, oh, your father will. I'd be like, damn it. Because Dad was so disapproving of the fact that I was drunk that he would not speak to me the whole way home. So I'd be like hammered in the back going...
Is this the same dad
from
who,
side
like,
to side?
I mean, he hasn't been drunk very often, but once or twice he's been drunk, like in the back of the car, delighted with life.
Once or twice. Sorry, Beatrice, in the last 10 years, anytime he can get someone else to drive, he's drunk in the back of the car after dinner.
Well, in fairness, he's no longer 20. You know what I mean? He's probably earned that.
And he's also about 4 stone. So like he has a bottle of wine with dinner and he's locked.
We're so jealous.
I know.
Oh, but I'm pretty sure you've now told stories about your friends. You've laughed at me. I'm pretty sure you've done some incredibly stupid things yourself. Namely in Milan, I specifically remember an incredibly stupid thing you used to do.
Oh, I used to do that all the time, though. It wasn't just a once-off.
Oh, no, all the time.
Oh,
repeatedly.
Yeah. Well, we have mentioned this before, but when I worked in a bar in Milan, I used to walk home. And I think it was like a 35-minute walk. And I used to walk home because I kind of had it in my head that, do you remember in Coyote Ugly when they used to talk about how
was this movie so formative in your life? Like, you have so many things.
So much I've taken from it.
So many quotes and so many like, well, just
like to be alone in the night.
Oh. And then her amazing piano playing. Dun, 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 dun,
oh my God, so funny. I've always wanted to play a keyboard on a rooftop in New York. Anyway, in Coyote Ugly, they talk about how after like a big night in the bar, they wouldn't be able to go to sleep. They'd have to... It's the dog in the car playing outside. In Coyote Ugly, they used to talk about how after a big night working in the bar, they'd have to wind down by like, they wouldn't be able to go to sleep. They'd have to wind down basically. So I had it in my head that I was like, I need to wind down.
This is Coyote Ugly?
Yeah.
They had to wind down from what, like?
From...
What are they doing?
Not getting tips from Italian people.
It's like Glow with a cat and a dog.
I had to wind down from basically not getting any tips from the Italian people that I was serving in the bar all night.
Yeah, exactly.
So I would finish work
the stress
at like...
of understanding nothing.
Oh my God. I remember the first night I understood nothing. They would just like, rattle off orders to you in Italian. I'd be like, per favore.
That's not what I thought you were going to say. Did I ever tell you about the very first time I dreamt in Italian? I had a full dream in Italian.
The first time I dreamt in Italian.
I had
it happened 10 million times after that.
It happened lots of times, but the first time I had a dream in Italian, I dreamt the entire dream in Italian. And I woke up and I was so stressed because I had understood nothing. But the whole dream was in Italian.
Did I ever tell you about the first dream I had in Latin, set in the basement of the Louvre? It was very profound. The first dream I had in Italian.
You're just very jealous. It's not attractive.
Anyway, I used to walk home, and then you obviously would give out to me all the time about walking home.
Yeah.
But like, I was just like, I can't get a taxi. Then that eats up like 25% of my...
Excuse me. Shh, as the baby would say. I had no problem with you walking home. The problem was... I would say to you, Rosemary, seriously, like it's very late. It's 3 a.m. Where are you? I think people need to understand that too. This isn't like an 11:30, 12:30 bar closing. The bars close at 3 a.m., right? Or 4 a.m. So this was like you were walking home in the very middle of the night down the dodgiest part of Milan. It wasn't like the Navigli, the second part of the Navigli was not like the most salubrious area. And I would say, Rosemary, did you walk home again? You go, don't worry. Because you were like so overcome. Don't worry. I had my headphones in the whole way. And I was like, are you joking?
I wish I could remember the sound. I wish I could remember what albums I listened to back then.
Jamiroquai, we were obsessed with it. Do you remember you did that? Do you remember you did that break dance? Do you remember you did that hip hop dance at our party on the roof? Everybody gathered around you while you demonstrated your hip hop
Thank
moves.
God I do not remember this. You keep talking about it, and I keep hoping that it's just something that you've hallucinated.
No. Oh. I even remember when you were in the doorway of the bedroom and everybody was gathered around you and you kept doing the same moves.
What? I was 19. It wasn't even like I was 12. What was I doing?
I was just jealous. I was still trying to perfect that one leg hop I could never manage to do.
You were obsessed with that.
I know, I still am. Every now and then when I'm trying to impress the kids, I bust it out.
Trying to impress the kids, think that works? Maybe the baby.
The baby's extreme.
The baby's like, Mom's amazing. Yay, yay, yay.
It's only because he can't talk yet.
Yeah, the rest of them are absolutely mortified.
I can convince myself he's thinking anything. Anyway, this same bar that you used to go to was probably where the worst thing that ever happened to me ever, where I think literally if Mom knew this story, sorry Mom, she would die. I actually think I maybe have told this to Mom at Christmas, like age 41, I finally said, Mom, this once happened to me and I never wanted to tell you about it. So in Cape Town, the same bar that you worked in, I used to go in and people are going to be shocked to find that I went in and had drinks all by myself, right? And sat at the bar. Well, I was trying to meet people and I was also trying to drink drinks, but I was trying to meet people. I really was. I went to so many bars. I was thinking that I was probably unfair to you with the headphones conversation because I was thinking of all the bars that I went to in Milan when I was there, when I was living there first by myself. And just, I used to happily go to bars, you know, stay there until they were closed and then walk home, right? Not always with my headphones in.
Like you would never go to bars as a way of meeting people now, I think, because you just end up sitting at the bar looking at your phone. Not you, but everybody. You know what I mean?
I don't think it was necessary. I don't know. I mean, I feel like it wasn't that different. It wasn't like people really talked to me. People talked to their own friends, you know?
Yeah, true.
I met loads of like bar people.
Oh, that's handy.
But then they would sometimes introduce you to like, oh, this is my friend Susan, you know, she this, or like, oh, I'm knocking off work now and I'll have a glass of wine with you, whatever, you know. And anyway, your man who owned the bar was like, oh, this is my friend Santa Claus. It's not his name, but that's who he looked like, right? And this guy was like 60 something. He definitely looked like Santa Claus.
I don't remember him.
No. I mean, I'd never seen him again. I never saw him before and I never saw him again. Oh. And he was at the bar and he was having a drink with another friend of his, a younger friend, like younger being like 40 something. And I forget, I was about 20, right? 21, 22 maybe. And your man was like kind of small, stocky, grey haired, big bushy beard, like absolutely zero threatening on my radar of threatening individuals, right? And he bought me a drink and we were chatting and nothing major. And then it was bar closing time later on, a couple of hours later. And we were all just drinking and chatting. And, you know, it was all very pleasant, but very innocent, right? And anyway, at closing time, your man goes, I'll give you a lift if you want. He goes, I haven't really been drinking. And I was like, oh, no, I just live down the road. You know, I was only about a 10-minute walk. And I was like, and it was very public. At like where I lived wasn't where you busy. And I lived. Yeah, it was pretty busy. I was like, oh, no, it was very well lit is what I'm trying to say. And I was like, oh, no, it's fine, thanks. He goes, oh, no, you're on my way. I'll drop you. And I said, oh, well, okay, grand, thanks. And also because there was part of me that was like, I didn't feel remotely concerned. It was very nice and pleasant. And he was your man's mate, you know? So there was like this kind of,
there's a safety level of
right. There was a validation
familiarity,
there of this person's vouching from, So anyway, I get in the car and we start driving. He's chatting and it's very, very pleasant, very nice. And he goes, I'd love to bring you home and show you my ceramics. And I was like, no thanks, right? I was like, oh no, I've got to go to work tomorrow. Thanks.
Of all the things, would he not have said my
show
puppy?
you my etchings? No, show you my ceramics. And I was like, well, no thanks, I have to go to work. So anyway, we're driving. And then I was like, oh, I actually live just here. And the locks went down in the car and he kept driving, right? And it was actually so terrifying. It was that moment of I'm about to be murdered. And he kept driving and driving. And I was like, literally let me out, right? Suffice to say, he didn't. So we drive out to the suburbs and I was absolutely freaked out at this point, but also drunk, thank God.
Were you in the front or in the back?
In the front.
Were you crying?
No. I don't think I was afraid enough at that point yet to be crying. I was trying to hold it together. So when we get to his underground...
Did you have a mobile at this point? Did you have a cell phone, mobile?
No. I had one, but it was dead, which is how you'll be surprised to hear. And
at least that's a habit you never grew out of.
I know, right? So we drive anyway to get to his apartment building, and he has an underground car park. He drives into the underground car park, and I'm like, I'm going to run away. And he goes, well, good luck. You'll never get out of it. Number one, it's locked, right? And like nobody's going to hear you. So he's like, so you might as well just come up to my apartment. He's like, don't be ridiculous. I'll give you a glass of wine. We'll have a chat. And I was like, he's like, I just want to show you my ceramics. And I'm going, okay, well, maybe I'm overreacting, but like this guy's a weirdo. And I said, well, okay, and he goes, and after that, I'll drive you home. And I said, Grant, okay. So we go up in the elevator to his apartment. I mean, like, listen, Rosemary, you're looking horrified, but I didn't really have much of a choice. So we go up, like, I'm inside a locked...
No, but I'm also just going, like, this is so weird. Like, if he wanted to attack you, he was being kind of polite about it.
No, he was about 2 feet smaller than me as well. Not to say that didn't mean anything. Like, I mean, a 60-year-old man could still easily overpower me then and now. But anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, like,
an 80-year-old man could overpower you.
100%. A dead man could overpower me. Anyway, so we go up to his apartment and we open, he opens the door and he goes, this is my kitchen. He goes, would you like some more wine? And I was like, absolutely not. No, I'm not going to like let go of my sense. I was totally locked, right? And he goes, well, he pours himself a glass of wine. Everything was very kind of, what's the word? Intentional and kind of slow and annoying as well. Because, you're like, just like, can we just go and look at your ceramics and then you're going to drive me home?
I'm imagining he put on a jazz soundtrack in the background.
I'm sure he did. Right, and then he goes, I'm divorced, so my ex-wife doesn't live here. It's just me now, it's just me. And I'm like, that's not very reassuring. Then we go into, he goes, let me show you this room. He opens this room that I thought was going to be the living room and turns out to be, and I am not joking, his room of ceramics. It was like a museum, right? It had plinths, it had framed artworks, it had urns, it had, those little titles, it had like, found in Pompeii, circa 1620. Like, it was insane. But it was also extremely impressive, right? If you're into that kind of thing. And if you're in, the Met Museum on a Sunday morning, it would have been extremely impressive. Not so impressive at the end of the night, trapped in this weirdo, like, tiny Santa Claus's apartment, right? So anyway, then it got worse. And I was like, okay, well, that was really, I was like, wow, that was fascinating. So we walk around. It took about an hour to the fucking tour. And he's like, and this shard here was found in Vesuvius. I was like, oh, fascinating. I'm like, okay, well, now you're going to bring me home. Well, no. He's like, well, you're here. Why don't we relax? He's like, let me show you around the apartment. He's like, this is where my grown-up daughter, this was where her bedroom was. This was my son's bedroom. And this was my bedroom with my wife. And he's like, oh, look in here. These are all my wife's clothes. She's only just moved out recently. She had all these designer clothes.
Oh my God, it's coming back to me now. Oh my God.
And he goes, why don't you try on some of these clothes? He goes, she's not going to come back and get them. You should try them on. I was like,
clearly
no.
murdered her. She's not coming back. Try on her clothes.
I was like, no thanks. He's like, she has beautiful beautiful pair of Pucci trousers. Why don't you try these on? I'm like, no, like seriously, these trousers aren't going to fit me. I mean,
sorry, Beatrice. the fact that the trousers weren't going to fit you is hardly relevant. But you're like, your only objection is they're too small. Give me something in my size and I might give it a go. Like, what?
At this point, I was trapped in his bedroom with him, right?
You were trapped in his bedroom because you walked into it during this tour.
Excuse me, where was I
You're now walking around like fanning yourself with the guidebook.
This is how cults happen. It was a relatively slow indoctrination.
Cults.
So anyway, he goes...
sorry, you put on the trousers, didn't you?
No, he goes, try on these trousers. I was like, listen, seriously, they're not going to fit me. They were about a size 2, right? And if, even I was at my very thinnest, I was about a size 10, right? I was like, they're definitely not going to fit me. He goes, no, try them on. And I'm like, no, absolutely. I was like, no, seriously, these are not going to fit me. I was being very feisty. And he goes, I'm going to close the door and you try them on.
No, I have another question. Were you by any chance wearing the seductive boots?
No, I didn't own them yet.
Oh, okay, go on.
I was like, no. Really, I just, these are not going to fit me. He goes, go on, try them on. So anyway, So he leaves, he closes it. I was like, okay, well, go and stand in the hall. I'm not putting these on while you're in the room. So like, I had some standards, right? So out he goes to the hall, close the door. I was jumping into these trousers trying to get them.
Were they stretchy?
No, they weren't. They were silk Poochie trousers. And they were like, there was not a bit of give in them. And I was jumping desperately into them. And then like they had them halfway up to my knee. And I'm like, okay, they don't fit me. Okay. I was like, okay, you can open the door. They don't fit me, but like you can't come in. And he's like, oh, I'm sure they do fit you. Let me just see. I was like, absolutely not. So then he made me try on 3 more things or 4 more things. I'm finally satisfied with the fact that I was larger than his dead ex-wife. He let me out of the bedroom.
Sorry, I don't want to victim blame at all, right?
Oh, really?
Well, I'm not sure who's the victim in this scenario, actually, but probably his ex-wife, his dead ex-wife.
This is absolute victim blaming.
Sorry, you're like, he made me try on 3 things. It literally sounds like he was just very politely going, try them on.
No, he wasn't. And well, maybe, but I was really just trying to get to the point where he was going to let me get back in the car. I was about to say, bundle me back into the car in a tarp, let me get back into the car and drive me home, right? That was what I was really clinging on to here. And finally he goes, I'm going to bed. And I said, I thought you were bringing me home. And he goes, well, I'm going to bed. Why don't we go and jump in bed here? And I was like, I'm not getting into bed with you. And I said, I'll sleep in your daughter's room. And I said, are you going to bring me home in the morning? He goes, yeah, absolutely. He goes, let's just go to bed. It's really late. So we go in. He goes to bed. I go into the daughter's room, lock the door, lie down. And I mean, I bet you're thinking I didn't sleep a wink.
I'd say I fell into the slumber of the dead immediately.
I woke up the next day at noon.
The fear knocked you out cold. That's what it was.
Well, I made the mistake of closing the shutters, so it was pitch black. And you know me with a good dark room, I was fast asleep.
Oh my God.
So then I go in and I have to wake and he was snoring. I'll never forget the snores out of him, right? And I was like, I was like, excuse me, Scoozy.
So then you went in. So hang on. You woke up.
I couldn't get out of the house. The house was locked. Excuse me.
Hang on.
The house was locked. I could not get out without him.
Okay. You woke up the next morning. The house was locked. Did you look around at any point for a phone?
Yeah, I'm sure I did.
You're sure you did?
Rosemary, I didn't know anybody's phone numbers off by heart.
999. I am being held against my will.
I didn't know where I was.
They trace it, Beatrice.
No, they don't, Rosemary. Have you watched any TV shows? They don't. They're like, we don't have tracing. It was Italy. They didn't even have like anything in the in the restaurants.
They probably actually would have
2 sinks.
They would have had you locked up for murdering the ex-wife within seconds.
They would have had me locked up for the travesty of trying on those Poochie trousers. This was Milan.
Like this woman, she come in my house. She ripped my wife trousers. She not leave.
And they would have been like, ridiculous. She's far too big to be trying on these trousers. Anyway, no, Rosemary, thanks very much. You're definitely victim blaming and I don't appreciate it.
So sorry, you woke up terrified at noon and you walked into your kidnapper's bedroom and you tapped him on the shoulder and you said, Scoozy, can you please bring me home now? I think this is basically what happened with one of the Ted Bundy murders. This is sounding very familiar.
You're making this sound like a one-night stand, and let me tell you, it was not.
Because I went out with him again the next
week. No, I didn't.
We dated for a year.
He opens his eyes and he goes, I'm not bringing you home. The key is over, like, beside the flower pot, basically. So I let myself out, find my way to the bus stop, long story short. Get on the bus, similar to the train debacle. I then have to jump from bus to bus, trying to find a circuit that I actually recognise. Crying my eyes out the whole time. Thanks a lot, Rosemary. But happy to be alive, nonetheless. I'm not wearing tiny Poochie trousers. So
I'd say you were actually like crying your eyes out going, oh my God, I was going to go to the market today. Now it's 2 p.m.
No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't. I literally was like, oh my God, I'm never going to find a man to buy me Poochie trousers. I wasn't. I actually wasn't. I was like, oh my God. Like, yes, I was annoyed at the waste of time. Like, but I was also like, what the fuck? That was so uncool, in fairness.
Do you remember when you... so uncool of you. Do you remember when you and... just like, that's an understatement, Beatrice. That's like,
well, Rosemary, you're
totally
not really
criminal.
Allowed,
like,
not
that
really
was
allowing,
so uncool.
You're not really
you kidnapped me and then you made me try on trousers that were too small for me.
I'm only laughing because I'm still alive. You wouldn't be laughing if you'd murdered me, Rosemary. If you'd found my chopped up body wrapped in those tiny trousers. You would.
Imagine I'd be like, she clearly didn't try these on herself. She would have known they weren't going to fit her. asked her, forced her to put these on.
This is the part where Mom goes, I enjoy the podcast, but you're desperate, kitty.
I'm actually just imagining the indignity of finding your body with a pair of Poochie trousers just up to your knees.
And then the problem is it would have been 3 pairs of Poochie trousers to hold the body. Oh, God. There would have been 1 leg in the Poochie trousers. Anyway. Yeah, so anyway, I mean, that's the kind of story that honestly I think, oh my God, your parents would die if they knew that's what you were doing on your Erasmus. I was doing nothing, I'd like to say. That was done to me. I was the victim, even though Rosemary has definitely made this seem like I was not, and is still laughing.
I actually feel sick. I just keep imagining him if he did kill you and they'd have his mugshot and I'd be like, I can't believe Santa Claus killed my sister and made her try on these trousers.
Okay. Well, he did.
What I was going to say was similarly, maybe it was Milan made us all like loosey-goosey with our safety standards, but when you and Julie went to, I think you went to Sardinia at one point on holidays, and I stop.
Oh my God.
No, this isn't about that. This is about, although that could have ended up with me dead as well. I went on a date with, there was this guy who used to come to Cape Town all the time and used to flirt with me all the time and also used to flirt with Julie. And I think he'd asked her out loads of times and she kept saying no and kept saying no. Then you guys went away and he asked me out, obviously going, Julie's not here, so I'll ask her. And I stupidly said yes because I was like, I should try new things. And we went for drinks. We both got absolutely locked. Then he was like, let's go for a drive. And instead of saying no, I was like, okay. We got in his car. He tried to make me drive. And I was like, no, I'm not insured to drive here. Like, I think I only had a provision. No, I had my license, but I was like, no, I can't drive here. And he drove around Milan like an absolute maniac, then insisted on coming up to the apartment. I mean, again, like insisted. Could I not just have been like, no? Instead, I was like, don't make the man angry, which happens a lot actually. But women try to be polite to like not make men angry.
Rosemary, I don't know how yours manages to be like not your fault, but me
my
being
story
polite.
is about feminism and your story is about stupidity. So anyway, in order not to invoke his wrath, I allowed him to come up to the apartment and snog the face off me.
Oh, I didn't do that to Santa. I didn't do that.
The couch.
Oh, Santa didn't snog me.
And then when he started putting his hand on my top, I was like, oh God, this is going too far. And I was like, you have to leave. And then we had a very awkward 20 minutes of him going, no, I'm not leaving. And he eventually left. That could have ended badly also. I could have ended up strangled in a pair of Poochie trousers.
You could. There was no Poochie trousers in the.
I could have ended up strangled by several Marnie handbags.
Oh my God, if you had actually ended up strangled in my apartment, I had to come home and find you dead, I would have murdered you. Like, if that's not an obvious thing to say.
However, if you had come home and found me dead, it really would have taken the sting out of finding all your plants dead.
I can't even, I couldn't even believe you. Like, literally, we went to Sicily for a beautiful 2-week romantic holiday. Myself and Julie, we did. We met. We had lots of romance.
And your one friend.
We had lots of romance that we already talked about in a previous episode. I actually forgot all the romance I had on that one. I should talk that
with Julie.
No. That would be an episode in and of itself, in case anybody thought I didn't know. Actually, there was zero romance, obviously, for me, because I would have mentioned it on that episode.
Was that when you went to Naples as well and you saw the man with the fridge on the back of the bike?
Oh, my God. Yes. We went to Naples. We had to go to Naples to get to Sicily, to get the ferry from Naples to Sicily. And in Naples, just as somebody tried to, a gang of rogue teenagers ran by and tried to grab my handbag. We've been
nothing
warned about
scarier than a gang of teenagers.
But I honestly swear to God that the decoy was the family on a bike with a fridge. There was 3 members of a family and a full-size fridge on the back of a bike cycling by.
They don't make bikes like that anymore.
Yeah, they do. It was a regular bike, just as these guys tried to
mean because it was carrying so much weight.
They do. Literally, it was unbelievable. And just as those guys tried to get my handbag. But anyway, then we went to Sicily. And actually, that was another one of our life and death experiences that it just occurred to me. We were absolutely hammered. We rented a car.
The common denominator of all these stories
is men.
Is actually excessive drinking.
It's men.
Yeah, that's actually very victim blaming of me. You should be able to excessive drink and not fear for your life.
Yes, exactly. Although this has nothing to do with men. This was just excessive drinking and me. So this one was we excessively drank. And we had rented a car, not excessively drinking ever, but we rented a car at the beginning of the trip. I think it was like 3 weeks around Sicily. It was amazing. So we lived in Paris at the time. And so we got like that 4-6 week holiday at the end of August, whatever, like between July and August.
So this wasn't the same time then?
That was
because this is when I was living in Milan.
Oh, well, it must have been. But you still got the same 6 week
holiday.
Oh,
yeah. The whole of August shut down. Yeah.
And so we rented the car in Palermo at the top end, the north end of Sicily. And then we did a circle around by all the other things that I can't remember, and ended up in Taormina, which was so beautiful on the east coast, I think, which had like all the ruins and the old, I don't know what it was called, but like they had the opera sing. Everything was just like magnificent. And we were staying in these little apartments on the beach, etc. Anyway, we had to hand the car back in one of the mornings there before we flew back out, or I can't remember. We must have gotten I don't know. Did we fly? Who cares? Anyway, and we were driving, and there was a very, very massively steep road in Taormina in this town. And we were going up the hill, and I was driving. I was a designated driver always. And we were and every time I would stop behind a car, the car would just slowly slide backwards. And it was the most terrifying thing.
Your car would?
Yeah, our car would just slide back. But I was also like still tipsy from the night before. We'd only stopped drinking at about 5 a.m, right? And Julie, very helpfully in the car beside, kept screaming, the car's sliding! Beatrice! And I was going, shut up! It was a fucking nightmare, right? So the two of us just like screaming at each other like fab, like banshees. Get to the top of the hill, realize that I'd been using the wrong pedal for the brake, which explained why I'd been pulling the handbrake but not actually pushing the brake. I'd been pushing the clutch. So we realised. I mean, only that morning,
God,
not all the way around Sicily.
Absolute joke.
I know, right? Anyway, almost died. Another story in the almost died pantheon.
That doesn't sound like doesn't sound like you almost died.
Almost died, Rosemary. The cliff was so steep. There were loads of cars behind me. It could have been a massive pile up, thanks to me not knowing where the brake was.
But if you slid backwards into another car, I don't think you'd die.
Trust me, I wouldn't have stopped. There was no stopping the sliding. Like literally cars were backing away from us. You are unbelievable. What do you want? Like, do you need actual wounds?
I honestly can't help but think that like if
your skepticism is unattractive for non-victim
At least if you'd been only lightly injured in a reverse car pileup, you wouldn't have minded so much about the plants then either.
I would actually have minded about the plants a lot because we loved those plants. We had created our own small oasis.
Balcony oasis it was. Yeah, it was gorgeous.
It was our seduction centre.
Beatrice, if you get a man up on your balcony,
yeah,
the seduction is surely over at that point.
Not remotely. You're joking. It's way harder than that. It was for me anyway. Anyway, it wasn't a seduction centre at all. It was just like really nice and relaxing. What?
It's way harder than that.
Gross. Mom and Dad are probably maybe listening weeks after the fact. Anyway, yeah, so we trusted you with not just the apartment but also the plants. Oh yes, she said. I'll keep them alive, she said. And when we arrived back the day after, the day of our return, Rosemary pulled up the shutters to the balcony like they had only just appeared in her, I don't even know, like in her eye line.
No, that's inaccurate because I had in a panic realised and tried to water them that morning when I was like, oh my God, they're coming home.
After 21 days you tried to water them?
I had watered them several times in week 1 and then I had just totally forgotten about them.
Every single thing was dead.
I know, it was a disaster. And
we lived on the 8th floor with no lift, and we had hauled every single one of those plants and everything up to the top of the stairs. It was atrocious.
I think that was the worst thing I ever did to you, really.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I could think of another couple.
Oh my God. What do you think is the worst thing you ever did to me? Was it that time you hung the plastic bag off my ears in the back of the car?
Excuse me, that was a help. That was supportive. You're joking. I've never done anything bad to you. I'm a really good sister for you. I lead by example. You know what? When you go low, I go high. What do you think is the worst thing I've ever done to you?
I'm just interested to see if you'll remember.
There is nothing. You're just actually annoying me. You're trying to provoke me here. You're looking very smug. Yeah, you are.
Okay.
How else did you ever put your life at risk in a stupid way?
When I met that guy in time who I really fancied, and he was like, come back to my friend's party. There was no party. It was just me and him in his friend's shed. Do you remember I was telling you that, like, he was like, oh, my friend's having an after party after time.
Shed?
Yeah, and he had this shed that was like converted into, and it had a pool table and it had a sofa. You know, it was like
fancy shed.
Fancy shed. Yeah. A really fancy shed with no bathroom. That was the one where I ended up going home and falling asleep in the bathroom. Was that nice?
Oh yeah. I only ever remember the.
But
end
also
of that story.
nobody knew where I was. So like because mum and dad thought I was staying in Emer's.
Oh yeah, but I mean they're low level
home.
stupidity. We've all done 9 million of those. Couldn't tell you how many stupid things I've done along the lines of that.
Yeah, I mean I have done a lot of like telling everybody I was going to one place, then getting drunk and being like, I'm going to go here instead.
Have you?
Yeah, I think.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
I think there was the time this is really stupid actually. God, I hope nobody ever listens to this except for maybe
everyone
people who don't know me.
I hope nobody, except I really want
lots of people to listen to it, except not people who would know me or judge me. But the very first the first week that we moved to Paris, I went first with all of our belongings, and mom and dad came to help us unpack and move and etc.
Say more mom than dad.
No, mom and dad, they were super helpful. And then Julie came, I don't know, a week or 10 days later, and the first night, mom and dad, I think, weren't there anymore. And the first night we went out to a club and we drank. And
you and Julie?
Yeah, and I got the hiccups. And I can't remember, we were having some row about something. I think it was to do with like the move and just the stress of, you know, moving and just the whole thing. Like it's a lot, you know, moving cities, etc. and being drunk. And I was like, that's it, I'm going into the bathroom to hold my breath. And I disappeared for like 45 minutes, and I vaguely
in the club, like
yeah,
where
in the club.
Oh.
And I think I went for like I was gone for about 45 minutes, and I couldn't get rid of these hiccups. I'm not even joking. Like I held my breath so much. I did like all that non-breathing, and I could not get rid of them. And when I came out, then we had a massive row because it was like, I think Julie thought I had been dead in the toilets. And then I was enraged with the idea that I would be so stupid to die in the toilets. But like I think her point was a good one. You know, if you're going to hold your breath until the hiccups go and you're drunk, you could easily pass out and like just and knock your head, whatever. No, your face, I don't know what your face is saying, but it's not complimentary to me.
My face is saying, you of all people do not, drunk or sober, have the strength of will required to hold your breath until you pass out or die.
Would you know?
Because I've seen you try to do things.
I am offended. I could pass out if I wanted to. No,
it's really hard to force yourself to hold your breath.
What if you were extremely drunk? And I'm not saying I was extremely drunk. Lightly, I was probably extremely drunk. Anyway, like the whole point is, you know, stupidity, and then we had a massive row about it. But like, I thought that was kind of dangerous, going into a bathroom in a dark, crowded place and holding your breath until your hiccups go away.
Oh yeah, Beatrice, you're really living on the edge. What's fine? Like, imagine if you're on a date. What's the most dangerous thing you've ever done? Well, once I had the hiccups, I went to the bathroom and held my breath, and I was slightly inebriated at the time, so really it was very dangerous.
I have overshared in this episode, and you have just made fun of me. And you know what? I think what it is that you've only ever been. I keep calling myself the sensible one, but Rosemary, seems to me like you might be the massive nerd. You have never been trapped in some Santa Claus's apartments with ceramics.
Oh yeah, because I haven't.
There you go. I'm just jealous.
And I've never ever fallen asleep in public transport.
Have you? Not really.
I don't think I have. I mean, I think I have in the morning on the way to work.
Well, there.
Like a little snooze.
Don't judge then. I've fallen asleep multiple times on the subway.
On the way to work?
No, on the way home.
I don't think I've ever fallen asleep drunk. Like, except for in my bed, but like, you know what I mean? On the way home,
yeah,
I don't
think
I've
subway, the train stops at 11:20 something. Like the subway stops at 3
Excuse me,
subway runs all night.
At 3:30. I used to get the night link at 3:30.
You did fall asleep on the night link because you had to be picked up from wherever one time.
No, that wasn't because I fell asleep on the night link. That was because I couldn't get a taxi. Do you remember in the good old Celtic Tiger days? Sometimes you'd go out in town and you just would not, for love nor money, be able to get a taxi. I remember walking to Rathmines once.
No, it was me. I never ever in my life got a taxi from town home. I didn't fancy myself like that. I didn't have the money to do that.
It's true.
You know, I never ever did.
Well, you know why I had the money? Because I worked part-time from when I was 14 in Spar going up to 24-year-old. So I saved my money. I was very sensible. I put money aside and I thought to myself, that'll be for my one night out now in the next 3 months.
My one night out. I'm actually enraged with you right now. I worked from the age of 12, even though I don't think that's legal, at the garden centre down the road.
You were not 12.
I was. We will ask Mom. I was 12, maybe 13.
We'll ask Mom and Mom will say, oh, she was 22.
No, she won't. And I'll have you know, and maybe this is where I should have been taking tips. And I used to be repotting those teeny tiny seedlings, and I got paid whatever 2 or 7 pence, I don't even know, for each
pot,
seedling
wasn't
per
it?
pot. So the speed, and there was no time to breathe, no time to do anything. And one time, it's true. And
there was no time to breathe. One time, what, you held your breath and you passed out?
Well, I was about to say, one time I fainted. And I fainted just straight onto the massive pile of like potting clay. And I had to be brought home, and I had like potting clay in my nose for weeks.
I thought you were going to say you fainted on top of your pile of little potted things.
No.
And it all got docked from your wages.
No, but they were all on the right-hand side of me. Like the big pile of soil was in front of me, and they were on my left to be potted, on my right potted. And I just obviously
that detail is less interesting than you'd think.
I just obviously fell right forward.
Into the potting soil.
Mm-hmm. And I was rescued. I could have suffocated to death.
Another near miss for Beatrice.
So thank God, I'd like to say this whole episode has just made me realise how grateful I should be for all the near misses I've had. Exactly, Rosemary, you've had none. So,
Beatrice, how can people get in touch with us? Beatrice, how can people get in touch with you if they want to take you for a drink and show you their ceramics?
Well, I'm on Instagram at Beatrice McCabe with an A in my Mac. And how can they get in touch with you, Rosemary, if they also are like mini Santa lookalikes and would like to treat you to a small version of what I got?
A small tour of their MoMA. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at Rosemary McCabe with an A on my Mac. You can also email the podcast at notwithoutmysis@gmail.com. Check out the website, notwithoutmysis.com, and you can check us out on Instagram as well at notwithoutmysister.
And if you were very enthralled by this high culture podcast episode, we've also discussed extremely interesting topics such as neighbours, roommates, what else?
Online dating.
Oh yeah, online dating, that was a good one. Mom.
Physical fights. Kicks in the shin at least.
Oh yeah, that's true. And others such, and there were a few genuinely highbrow references in there. You'll have to dig to find them.
In some very early episodes. We have a new episode out every Tuesday, so subscribe wherever you're listening to this. And if you have 2 seconds, we would love if you would go and rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. And thank you so much for listening. We will catch you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Not Without My Sister is edited by Liam Garrity. Sound and our original music are by Don Kirkland, and our original illustration is by Lindsay Nielsen.
You can find more great shows at thewarren.ie.